Hi, this is Dan, editor at Scootering magazine. We're just doing a small series of videos in relation to an upcoming series of articles in the magazine. The series will be headed up by Stan, who's doing a trip to Poland on his Lambretta. So we're going to do a few unboxing videos of some of the products that we've got lined up to go in the engine. It's a small block engine for his Lambretta, and so let's take a look at some of the products. Okay, the next item we're going to have a look at on the Quattrini Lambretta small block engine build for Stan's trip to Poland. It's not an in-depth technical, it's just an overview and unboxing of the components we're going to use, so that if you want to follow this in the magazine, you can see what he used, how it got on there, and any problems that we had during the journey, if at all any. The next item is the AF Rayspeed 5-speed gearbox. We featured the press release for these in the magazine as and when they came out, and then a few of the problems that they had on the first batch, but this is the first time I've actually seen one in the flesh, so let's have a look and see what is in the box and what it is you get for your money. Off the top of my head, if I recall correctly, these cost around the £500 mark, which for a 5-speed gearbox I think that they've really done well to come in at that price. There are more expensive versions out there if your budget can stretch to it and you feel that there's a benefit from those more expensive versions, but this is the 500 quid version from AF Rayspeed. If you followed it in the magazine, you may recall that on initial release they had some teething problems. They went through quite an extensive testing process to make sure that the product they released to the public was as good as they could feasibly get it. They believed that to be the case, and when the very first batch came in, it had just become apparent after they'd sent a few sets out that there was in fact an issue not with the gearbox itself, which they had put through rigorous testing on the racetrack and actually instructed the race riders to try and break the damn thing, and they hadn't managed it. But it became apparent that further down the line there was a little bit of an issue with the original batch of these selectors actually having some hairline cracks in them. Now, the good thing about buying from a company like AF Rayspeed is that they stand by their stuff, and the minute they found out that there was an issue with those early selectors in batch one, they got straight on it. They recalled them, they put information out in the press, they had this whole situation re-engineered, improved and taken up to a new higher level, so that eradicated that problem, reissued all new selectors to everybody who wanted them, offered refunds to those who didn't, which I don't think there was very many people who didn't want the new selector, i.e. not many people went for a refund. So there's a ton of these now out in the open marketplace. We've got one here. The 5-speed gearbox, I think it was something that a lot of people wanted for a long time. I don't think a lot of people really necessarily knew why. I think the natural assumption is if 4 is good, 5 must be better. When various companies brought their versions out and then had problems with them and so on and so forth, I was a bit dubious about the cost and so on and so forth and what the benefits were. But now, having ridden a few scooters with the 5-speed gearboxes on, I think overall it makes it a nicer ride. There's a lot more benefits in terms of if you've got a peaky engine, this can help keep you in the power. If you want to set up a nice touring engine, you can select, for want of a better expression, it's not technically correct, but an overdrive gear if you so wish. And there are a few gearing combinations that can go with these to make it, make your Lambretta riding experience a more pleasurable one, and that's the bottom line. It isn't something which is absolutely necessary. You know, a good 4-speed close ratio gearbox on an engine with a broad spread of power, that's fine. We've been doing that for years and we've managed so far. But if you do want to have something extra in your engine, if you want to say have an engine that's, you know, got the overdrive, or that can utilize its peak power a bit better by having closer ratios and more of them, then this is a good bit of kit to do that. And unlike some of the others, you don't have to break the bank in order to do it. This is a 500 quid bit of kit. Comes with your, obviously, all the bits and pieces you need, as well as your, obviously, your cluster, but also a selection of shims, specifically the thickness that you're going to need when working with this gearbox. Obviously this gearbox just takes up slightly more space. They've made each gear a little bit thinner, but then also got those gears slightly tighter together, but overall it takes up a little bit more space in the available area, so you usually end up using a thinner shim than you would normally on a 4-speed gearbox. But the updated pawls for the gear selector are there. Nice bit of kit, just over 500 quid. This is going to go really well into the fast touring build that Stan's doing for his small block Lambretta for his trip to Poland, and it'll fit in well with the rest of the stuff. So that's the gearbox. Let's take a look at some of the items in the next video.